first let me just apologize to the people in the back because I fart a lot when I get nervous. Just saying. So I grew up in a very stereotypical Midwestern small town. Lots of single homes and driveways and yards and stuff they don't have around here a lot. But I grew up on a little cul-de-sac called Hiawatha Place, which was actually in a neighborhood called the Indian Village. It was the 70s, right? Yeah. Next to Cherokee Court and Totem Place. Anyway, on my street, it was great because we had a lot of, typical middle-class families, lots of small kids. And right across the street from me lived this kid named Eric Hallbachen, whose family was the local high rollers. They had a Mustang in the driveway. They had an indoor pool, the only one on the street.
Indoor?
Not indoor, sorry, in-ground, my bad. The only in-ground pool on the street, though. They had a finished basement with a pool table. And Eric always had the nicest bike. So he was a couple years younger than me and a bit of a brat, but he had the best toys and a pool. So he was a good friend to have. Next door to him was Christy Jones. She was a year younger than me, a year older than Eric. Her family was a bit more hickish, not quite white trash, but their yard was always a little rugged. They always had a truck in the driveway in various state of repair. Her large-breasted father didn't wear a shirt a lot. Very nice folks, but not quite the Mustang of the block. Our family was somewhere in the middle. We had the Oldsmobile. But we were all kids, and we were all around the same age, so we used to hang out a lot. And one summer evening, we were behind Eric's house, behind his pool, just messing around, making a mess, doing whatever. And I could hear my mom calling from my house that it was time to come in. It was getting dark, so I had to go. But they didn't have to go. And somebody had the idea, well, before you go in, let's have a race to your house. And I was like, fuck yeah. Because let me tell you this, I don't know whose idea it was, but I was a fucking fast kid. I was the kid in gym class who always won the race around the school. And for God's sake, I anchored the relay race in the field day race at the end of the year for my 5th grade class. We lost. I lost to a girl. But I blame the leadoff runner because he sucked. Anyway, so somebody said go, and we took off, and we're running. And we go around the side of his pool, and we get to the side of his yard, and we're running, and we're all kind of neck and neck. I think Christy got a head start because she's a little bit of a snitch, but... So we get to his front yard, and there's a tree in Eric's front yard, right in the middle. And it's not a large tree, but it's very leafy. And it's actually low enough that even as a kid, I was probably tall enough to run into the lowest branch. So naturally, Christy and Eric go around the tree. But I was not about to lose, so I decided to go under the tree. Now, I'm hauling ass as fast as a 10-year-old can run. And I was just running, and I ducked and missed the tree completely free and clear, and I was good to go. Unfortunately, what I neglected to remember was that there was another obstacle in between the tree and the street that the nanosecond of time that I had between that realization and the collision only allowed me to do one thing, and that was to try and stop with my feet because I couldn't go around it. I could not avoid it at all. So all I did was essentially launch myself balls first into the mailbox in front of Eric's house. Now, I've heard of absolute zero, but I've never experienced absolute pain until that moment of my life, or since. And ladies, I know I will never know the pain of childbirth. But until you've had your ovaries sucked out of your body and impaled by a sledgehammer, you will never know the pain of mailbox, okay? Just so we're clear. So I'm rolling around on the ground in pain. Christy and Eric are laughing at me. You hit your balls. I pull myself off the ground, I make it to my house, and I go into my parents' house, and they're sitting at the kitchen table reading the paper. And I'm crying incessantly and can't make a noise other than... And I can't speak, and my dad's like, what's wrong? Because it's my dad, I had a testicle problem, so I went straight to him. He's got 40 years of experience, and he had no idea what was wrong. What's wrong? What's wrong? I can't speak. My mother naturally knew because she motioned to my groin and said, Dennis. Dennis. So he figured it out, and I calmed down and told him what happened. And he said, "You okay?" And I said, "I'm okay now." But he was very clear. I specifically remember him telling me, make sure they might get swollen, and you probably bruise them. Watch for a color change. And I said, "Okay, yeah, no problem. I'll be sure and let you know." Now, a day or two later, things were fine, except have you ever shut your finger in a car door and get a blood blister? Yeah, 90% of my scrotum turned black, or very, very deep purple. And I actually thought, very briefly, I swear to God, I thought I was beginning puberty right then. And it was the dark roots of pubic hair beginning to grow in. I eventually realized it was not very good, and I was too embarrassed by that point, so I didn't say a word. And since that point, I've always wondered, has that affected the viability of my seed? And, you know, I'm 34 years old, I just got married a couple years ago, and I've never had a reason to have my sperm count checked. I've never impregnated a woman that I'm aware of. I've always practiced safe sex, so I've never had a need check. The funny thing is, when these themes came out back in the fall, I actually made a note immediately, the mailbox story would be great for this story slam. Not even a couple weeks after that, my wife and I started having serious conversations about having kids. And she actually said, can we start trying next year? And I said, sure, but I can't promise you healthy sperm. And she said, why not? And I said, mailbox. And she said, oh, yeah. So that was that until literally 10 days ago, on March 14th at approximately 7 a.m., she told me she was pregnant. Yeah! Who needs to run fast when your boys can swim?
Wow. Wow.